I can't, in good conscience, allow the U.S. government to destroy privacy, internet freedom, and basic liberties for people around the world with this massive surveillance machine they're secretly building. Edward Snowden. So this is a Julian Assange update. So there's some major news coming out of the Julian Assange detention scandal. So Julian Assange's lawyers are seeking asylum in France, right? So he had asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy for 7 years, but just last April 2019, Assange was arrested, pulled out of the embassy. Now he's in a Belmarsh prison in London. So the British authorities, Boris Johnson and the Queen and, you know, the Parliament and all those assholes, they have Julian Assange trapped and held, and they're going to have a 3-day or a 5-day hearing starting on January 25th, and then they're going to reconvene later on in March or May. I think May is going to be like 3 weeks or some shit, so there's preliminary stuff, and then the big thing is coming up in a couple months. So it's just right around the corner. 3 days it begins. So before the three days, they're seeking asylum in France. They had already applied for a Assange asylum request in France in 2015 and was rejected. So 5 years later, they're going to try it again. If you read Article 53 of the French Constitution, that allows for asylum for people who are being persecuted for freedom of expression, which is all Julian Assange is guilty of, pointing out war crimes, telling the truth about a bunch of corrupt government officials who didn't want the truth to be told on them. So it doesn't matter. The surveillance state, it's okay for, you know, all you and me and everybody else in the entire world, but not for them, not for the rich and the powerful, not for the 1% Jeffrey Epstein ruling class. So the Assange lawyers are seeking asylum in France. They should apply to Russia or Venezuela, North Korea, or Syria at this point. Assange actually has roots. He lived in France for 3 years, 2007, 2010. His youngest child still lives in France with his mother. Assange has roots in Francois Holland's France. No, he has roots. Sorry. Assange has got roots in France. He's got a kid, and his mother, I don't know if it's an ex or his wife, but he's got a youngest kid lives in France. And then in Francois Holland's France, he was denied asylum. So 2015, Francois Holland said, fuck you, Julian Assange. But now you got Macron, Emmanuel Macron, right? So we're going to see what Macron has to say about the Julian Assange and getting him some asylum. Now, what is Julian Assange being accused of? Espionage and, you know, the Espionage Act. That's really the main thing with America. So you got a global security state. Sweden put some false rape charges on him, and they've dropped him. So what the fuck happened to all that bullshit, right? That stained his name. People are like, well, he's a rapist, right? So fuck him. That's why they're trying to, you know, haul him into jail. Nope. He wasn't a rapist. He had criticized, he dared to criticize the empire, just like Jesus Christ dared to criticize the Roman Empire back in those tumultuous days in Galilee. And because he dared to criticize the empire, he's anti-war, he's for journalistic freedom, he's for whistleblowing, and he got a video, you know, his most famous thing, he's talked about a whole bunch of shit. He cleaned up the corruption in Peru, so Peru should be kissing his ass because he helped the country of Peru become a better nation. And, you know, really, he helps every nation become a better nation when you unearth all this bullshit. But you had South Park that said that the issue's more ambiguous than that. It's just the hypocrisy that everybody else in the world has to be surveilled, but not them. Not they get, you know, and then they can't be criticized. Nobody can even say that they're doing wrong. The emperor doesn't wear any clothes. And if you're not allowed to say that the emperor doesn't wear clothes, then that motherfucker's going to be walking his fat-ass body naked all over through the goddamn streets, thinking he's, you know, the most beautiful man in the entire world, and he's completely naked. It's going to be embarrassing. You got to tell the emperor's not wearing clothes when he isn't wearing any clothes. You have to tell him that. 175 years in jail. So all Julian Assange is looking at is, nearly 200 years in jail if he's convicted of the 18 charges of the United States government. So this is Donald Trump, right? So Boris Johnson is holding Julian Assange in Britain because Donald Trump wants his ass for the shit that happened in WikiLeaks. But Donald's new, right? He's like the new uncle in town, and he's like, hey, let's get out of Syria. Hey, let's change our relationships with Russia. Hey, let's do, let's cut food stamps. Hey, I'm your uncle, right? You keep feeding a stray dog, that stray dog's going to keep on coming back. You got to throw a brick at that stray dog and make it go get its own food stamps. So 18 charges. So because Donald Trump wants Julian Assange, Boris Johnson is going to hold Julian Assange until Boris Johnson feels, compelled or that it's totally necessary to give Julian up to Donald. And then, it's not directly to them, but they're the heads of the government, and then they'll just be rotting in prison. So Julian Assange is rotting in a Belmarsh prison in London, just like Chelsea Manning is rotting in some prison in the United States over bullshit. Meanwhile, the Fuhrer-in-Chief, the guy who issued a hit on Maria Yovanovitch, a U.S. ambassador, a U.S. citizen, a government official, no less. So Assange lawyers are seeking asylum in France, right? He's had all this shit that's been happening. He was in 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy. So ever since this shit's happened, 7 years of his life just, living in a tiny little room, skateboarding in the hallways, trying to make the best of the shit. He's got 18 charges, 175 years in jail is what he's going to have to serve if he's convicted of these 18 charges. The Fuhrer only had 2 charges for issuing a hit, a kill order. He only got, just for a kill order, he's only going to get 2 charges, and he's going to get acquitted. Fantastic. Meanwhile, Julian Assange gets 18 charges, and then Chelsea Manning's in jail for not listening to a subpoena, which is exactly what Donald and all his cohorts did too. So the hypocrisy is just at high fever pitch. Since 2019 April, that's when he's going to get arrested. So you have Julian Assange, who's in a Belmarsh prison, right? Katie. So Belmarsh prison in London, Britain right now. So for April 2019 to almost a year, he's been rotting in a prison for almost a year on top of the 7 years that he was in prison in that Ecuadorian embassy, which they were actually nice and gave him asylum, but then Ecuador gave him up. So Ecuador had a good-ass president. Now they got a shitty president. Now, Reuters, where's all this coming from? Okay, so this is the bombshell of a report, and it seems like this is going to be the argument that they're going to present to the court, the political motivations of Donald Trump. So Edward Fitzgerald, which is Assange's lawyer, they call it barrister, that's his barrister. So anyways, Julian Assange's barrister, Edward Fitzgerald, claims that Donald Trump offered Julian Assange a pardon if, and only if, he would exonerate the Russian hack of the DNC emails. As long as he would help cover up the Russian hack of the DNC emails. That's what Edward Fitzgerald had said to a London court. Then it got reported in the paper, and they said that the meeting had happened in 2017 when you had a Republican representative, ex-congressman now, but Dana Rohrabacher, they claim to be Putin's favorite congressman. Instructions from the President Donna asked Assange about a quid pro quo. Hey, cover up this Russian hack of the DNC emails, and I'll give you a pardon. So this does smack of propaganda. Jimmy Dore says this is all bullshit, but then he doesn't understand why the Assange's barrister would say something like this. Why would he say something like this? Because clearly it's not Russia. It's Seth Rich. But according to Rohrabacher, so Yahoo News, they're going to carry on. They're going to make it seem like it's one way, but it's not crystal clear to me what Rohrabacher actually said. But according to Rohrabacher's own testimony, he is saying that he spoke to Julian Assange and told him that if he would provide evidence about who gave WikiLeaks the emails, then he would petition the president to give him a pardon. So he was wanting, the goose before the gander. He was wanting the quid before the quo. He was saying, give me the information, and then, I'll go to the president, and I'll try to see if he'll pardon you. He's going to afterwards, so this is Rohrabacher, right, in his own words. He didn't ask for him to lie. He said, just tell the truth, right? Tell the truth. If it's Russians, if it's Seth Rich, just let us know, let us know. Tell us what's going on. So the barrister is kind of saying it differently, right? And then Rohrabacher, this congressman, is going to tell John Kelly, who's the chief of staff, was the chief of staff for Donald for a while, said that John Kelly was courteous, but he didn't make a commitment to tell the president. Rohrabacher did not talk to John Kelly ever again, nor did he ever talk to Donald about the thing. And so the way it sounds like is that the White House sent Rohrabacher to offer a pardon if he would lie and say that it was Russia that had hacked the DNC emails. Now, Julian Assange had said several things in different videos. He insinuated that it could have been Seth Rich, right? He insinuated that it's possible that it could have been Seth Rich that did it, and then he specifically stated right out that it wasn't a government or a state actor. So he's like, here, I'll give you a hint. It's not a government. It's not a state actor. And I'm kind of inclined to believe him. And not a government, not a state actor, so it's not Russia, but it's being reported as if it is Russia. So we don't, who the fuck, who did fucking, goddamn hack the DNC fucking emails? I guess in some respects I do want to get to the bottom of the goddamn thing. And so to me it sounds like Rohrabacher tried to do this thing and it fell through, probably didn't get, Assange to say shit, and then Assange just kind of, pointing this out. Maybe he did offer the pardon. Maybe he didn't offer him a pardon. Maybe Donald knew about it. Maybe he didn't. It's not clear to me either way, right? Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows? Donald says he doesn't know the guy, which probably means they've been best friends their entire life, right? So the judge said that the allegation could be raised in the extradition hearing coming up next week. So February 25th. I believe February 25th is when it begins in only 3 days. So he's like, all right, that's your allegation, so we'll listen to your allegation in court when you're on the record. So we'll see if they repeat it. Donald, the White House, they're saying it's a total lie, his, press secretary, what have you, and that's all that they're saying about it. Now, it looks like Donald, the story makes it look like Donald is covering up for Russia, make it look like he's trying to exonerate Russia. It's just an allegation, but it was a lawyer, right? A respectable, man, somebody of the court, somebody with judicial power. He said it out loud in court. He's going to be the one defending Assange. So, Jesus Christ, are they going to, get Donald to testify to see if, any of this shit is true? And you'd have to get Assange on the record first, right? So, who knows how this thing is actually going to turn out. But, wow, I mean, if that's true, if Donald offered the pardon to cover up for the Russians, well, then shit, the Democrats were right the whole fucking time. But that just seems too perfect now, doesn't it? If something seems, if it looks too good to be true, then it usually is. So, I don't know. So, Assange, let's see, gave information. If he would have gave information, if he would have covered up Russia, then he would have got a pardon. Who actually knows what happened with that conversation? If it wasn't recorded, then it's just left up to the dustbin of history, and for how the two will reconstruct it today. How are they going to reconstruct that meeting today? And it could be a last-ditch effort, but it could be some honesty. So we're in a postmodern, post-truth, era right now. So who the fuck knows, really, really only Edward Snowden and Bernie Sanders are the only two people that we could trust. Jill Stein, there's about a handful of people, the people that have been telling the truth the whole time. Those are the people that you can trust. So yeah, maybe, Russia hacked those WMDs too in Iraq. Perhaps Papa Bush won't raise our taxes. Maybe Billy Willie Slick did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Seth Rich, was he murdered for the DNC email hack? He's a hero. If I would like to get to I want to know who the fuck hacked the DNC emails. Who the fuck hacked them? Because Seth Rich is a hero, And apparently, Seth Rich wasn't robbed. He still had his money, his wallet, jewelry. He was shot in the back of the head in Washington, D.C. So if he's the one who leaked the DNC emails and then he got shot in the fucking back of the head, yeah, that's something I want to know about. That's something that we all need to know about, because what the fuck, that's clear shenanigans, clear connection. And he doesn't like the Clintons. I don't see why he wouldn't come out and say it right out. I could see how he would hint that, he might have had something to do with it, but then just, totally back away from it. So yeah, who the fuck knows what the fuck is going on? I want to hear Assange testify, but they probably won't, have him testify whatsoever. And, in general, I think it's probably a good idea, but if the judge is looking like he's going to be fair, then perhaps, I want to know who the fuck hacked those DNC emails. And so for some reason, he hasn't said it. He's protecting his sources, but, at this point, if it was Russia, if it was Seth Rich, maybe the speculation just, adds to the magic of, the whole thing or some shit. I don't know. But if it was Seth Rich, I feel like I would want him to let me know, so that way, I find closure on this fucking mystery. But also to know that Seth Rich is a hero, and that somebody did kill him because he leaked that fucking email hack. So, yeah. The mainstream media can't be trusted either. So who the fuck, a lawyer? The mainstream media said a lawyer said something in court, and is it true, is it a lie? I don't know, but he said it. He said it out loud, and he might say it again in 3 more days. So it seems like the mainstream media is just making folks, because they just say straight up, well, the Russian hacked DNC emails, that they're just Russian hacked now. We had a Mueller investigation and all this other shit, and yet did we get to the bottom of it? Did we actually find out it just seems like it's more muddled than ever. But they just stated it as truth. 2 years, Mueller, the Mueller investigation didn't find shit. They didn't find nothing. So what? Well, both Private Manning and Julian Assange are rotting in jail right now, right? Private Manning in some federal prison in America. Julian Assange is rotting away in a Belmarsh prison in Britain. These are good men. And the fact that Boris Johnson and Donald Trump doesn't recognize that they're good men and offer them the pardon that they clearly deserve for being the good men. So good man stands up, says, hey, bad man murdered, innocent children, and we're going to throw the good men in jail? That's your moral standards? That's how you look at the world? Assange spent 7 years in Ecuadorian embassy. He's being martyred like Jesus on the cross. 18 charges for the Espionage Act. Same shit they're throwing on Edward Snowden. Espionage Act from Woodrow Wilson back in the 1900s. That's the only thing you got on somebody, some law from 100 years ago, some bullshit law, the Espionage Act, meaning if we think that, you might be a spy, then we get to Woodrow Wilson. It was a curtail of freedom of speech. He's going to throw Eugene Debs in jail for 10 years. Woodrow Wilson, the same person that said the birth of a nation was like writing history with lightning. It's like writing history with lightning, isn't it? Yeah, that's what movies are, especially if they're a biopic that's, an accurate depiction. But Birth of a Nation, the KKK did not save the white class, the white, people. The KKK destroyed white people. The integrationists, the people that were for black folks, those are the people that are going to save white people. So, fucking shit. 18 charges, Donald only gets 2. He gets 18 charges. 175 years in jail because, he's 50, 60 years old. 50, years in jail isn't enough. We need to make sure he's, dead and gone. So 100, no, he could be, he's 60, he could live to be 150. Let's just make it 175. Yeah, he might live to be 225. Are you sure? He might be 225 years old one day there, London. Hey, London officials, your American officials. Hey, Donald Trump, he could become, 106 plus the 25 plus the 107. He could become 250 years old one day. So why only, Jesus Christ, 175 years in jail? That's a slap on the wrist. Why not give him 465 years in jail? That'll show him. Oh, that'll show him. So that's my Julian Assange update. Peace.